I really thought my last video talking about how Filmora had canceled all the lifetime licenses for its most loyal user base would be my last. I was actually kind of hoping it would be based on how I felt about the company in that moment. But with the amount of questions that came in the comments section of that video, most of which were all really positive, so shout out to the community. There are actually a lot of really valid questions that were asked that I think deserve honest answers. Currently, there are almost 4,000 questions on that video, and it's tough for these old hands to keep up typing all those responses, so I thought this might be a little more effective. Now, there were some very surprising discoveries made through these conversations along the way that might actually shock some lifetime license holders, so put on your helmets. Let me start here. One of the most common comments that I got was that I didn't understand the difference between updates and upgrades when it came to software. And I get why a lot of people might think that, because Filmora went out of their way to keep posting the end user agreement from Filmora 9 as their only point of reference. But the earlier end user license agreement that many of us saw long before the one that Filmora keeps quoting actually read this way. For the purposes hereof, update means a new version of the licensed software containing technical modifications, updated information, altered functionality, or any other changes that are intended by the licensor to improve or to add, delete, or otherwise modify any aspect of the licensed software. Now, since then, Filmora has made sure that they have changed and added another line into that end user license agreement, and it now reads as follows. The licensor may, at its sole discretion, decide if licensee can get software updates and/or content updates free of charge, or the licensee has to pay for the updates. And that's been the hook that they hung their hat on when they emailed me. But hang on. The point that Filmora has been trying to make is that Filmora 12 isn't an update, it's an upgrade. And that updates refers to the changes that we would see within a specific version. And that ends up making this new language even scarier than we thought. Let's look at that new end user license agreement again. Updates, not upgrades. Can you imagine having to pay for every single update? I lost count, but I think Filmora 11 had 10 or 20 updates just in the 10-month period from when it was launched till December of this year? Imagine them sticking to this new license agreement and charging users for every single one of them. But no matter how you read these ever-changing EULAs, clearly Filmora has gone out of their way to mean something very different now than they meant when a lot of us early supporters bought our licenses back in the day. Now, some people were confused between the differences of a perpetual plan and a lifetime license. And I think that that's somewhat intentional, because Filmora has tried to blur the lines of the language when they actually talk about each of these plans and/or licenses. It's almost like they're trying to keep the users guessing. Even recently on Twitter, when they were trying to respond to all of you, they referred to a perpetual plan as a perpetual license. Now, another thing I've heard a lot of people talk about in the comments section is a class action lawsuit. I wouldn't even know where to begin to address a question like that. But it did bring up another question that I thought was really valid from a lot of people who commented on my other video. They asked, for the amount of years that you've had this license, are you really upset about this change? And my answer is yes and no. Look, I was very satisfied with the product I got for my money during the years that my lifetime license was honored. But it was never about the money for me. The price of the Filmora 12 upgrade certainly wasn't going to break the bank for me. It was more about the tens of thousands of people who had saved up their money to make a one-time, lifetime license purchase and were promised one thing, but delivered another. I had parents from countries around the world leaving comments saying that that investment was a significant amount of money for them. Now they're asking those parents to open their wallets once again. And here's the real elephant in the room. Filmora could have told all of these lifetime license holders what was coming ahead of time and explained why. But they chose not to. Why? Probably to avoid dealing with exactly what they have on their hands now. Lots of backlash from their loyal user base and risk losing potential sales to the upcoming Filmora 12 release before they could get people to sign on and send them more money. One great analogy that I read in the comments said, Imagine buying season tickets to go see your favorite sports team. But when you get to the stadium, they stop and tell you, hey, we've made significant investments in improving the stadium since then, and we're going to need to start charging you more per month if you want to actually see a game. But you can always go back and watch replays of the older games if you like. Some of you guys are really funny and spot on in the comments section. I'll give you that. A handful of comments that I got were admittedly a little more aggressive, calling me an idiot for not reading the fine print, which I think I've shown that I did, or calling me stupid for expecting a company to actually honor a lifetime license. Okay. Or also saying things like, this is why I pirate the software. Of all the comments that I got, this is the hardest one to hear. I've said pretty loudly for years that stealing software is just never the right thing to do. Especially in this situation. Two wrongs definitely don't make a right. Accusing a software company of not honoring their lifetime licenses and then going on to steal the software is a bit like being mad at your bank because they messed up your deposit and then going over and robbing that bank. I will say this though, out of this discussion, there was one real bombshell that came out of nowhere. A Twitter user using the very same Wayback Machine that I mentioned in the previous video actually found this archived Filmora webpage from only weeks ago. It was a Filmora promotional page that allowed users to get a few discounts if they went ahead and updated to Filmora 12 ahead of the actual release. This very same Filmora 12 discount page exists right now, and if you go to it and scroll down to the bottom, there are 6 frequently asked questions regarding Filmora 12 that Filmora posted to help users understand exactly what's going on with this new version and what to expect moving forward. The last 2 questions are undeniably clear. The very first of those 2 questions asks, why do I need to pay for Filmora 12? The second FAQ goes on to ask, under what circumstances can I upgrade to Filmora 12 for free? Currently, there are only 2 options on that webpage that would allow that to happen. 1, you are a Filmora subscription user, or 2, you purchased the Filmora 11 Perpetual plan within 90 days before Filmora 12's official launch, purchased from September 2022 to December 11th, 2022. But hang on. Let's look at what happens if you read the archived version of that very same page from only a few weeks ago. There's a very significant difference that Filmora has gone out of their way to erase since all of this you-know-what hit the fan. There were actually other scenarios that would allow users to upgrade to Filmora 12 for free, and the very first one is shockingly clear. You would be allowed to upgrade to Filmora 12 if you are a lifetime user of Filmora 9 or the earlier version. Now, when users discovered this and rushed to point it out to Filmora on Twitter, Filmora quickly dismissed them, saying this was just another misunderstanding between us. And they said that those options were just some sort of limited time benefit for Filmora users during the Filmora 12 beta test. I'm looking at all of these frequently asked questions from then and now, and I'm not seeing anything in here that would allow a user to understand that somehow this might be a beta testing related offer, or that somehow this would be different down the line. Here's another thing that's really confusing. Some lifetime license holders who either purchased before Filmora 9 or after and hadn't signed up for any sort of Filmora 12 beta testing still have access to the new Filmora 12 update completely free of charge. Up to this point, Filmora refuses to give any of us answers as to why this might be happening as well. They just seem to keep pointing fingers back to the current EULA and telling users that this is all just one big misunderstanding. The one thing that I can tell lifetime license holders who were allowed to upgrade to the new Filmora 12 is that I can't see anything in any of these agreements that would allow you to keep upgrading moving forward, so who knows. I really hope that this has helped answer some of the questions that all of you have asked in the comments section, and no matter what you decide to do, whether you stick with Filmora moving forward or decide to move on to a different video editing software, I wish you all nothing but the best of luck with your next video edit. And I want to remind you that this video was edited with the completely free version of DaVinci Resolve. Peace.